And welcome everyone to Township of Whitewater Region's regular council meeting for the 3rd of May. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 1:07. Thank you for your patience. And our starting time this morning, we were just going through our new deputy clerk. So I'm just putting the dig in there. He's now experiencing how it all works up at the front. Good. We will, now that we've called to order, first step is we're going to rise for a national anthem, please. Excellent. Please take your seats. Next is our land acknowledgement. As we gather, we would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we're extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of our agenda, but before we do so, I have to excuse myself. There are a number of phone calls that I need to make related to the flooding situation here in Whitewater Region. I'll come back with some more information later on in our agenda, but as per procedural bylaw, I am handing over the chair of this meeting from this point forward to our deputy mayor. So at this point, I will rise and she will take over the seat.
Sorry, see, I've already started. Yeah, I just want to ask for everyone's patience here as we move forward. It's going to be a busy afternoon. So we'll start off, first of all, with the adoption of the agenda. I do have a recommendation that Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the May 3rd, 2023 agenda. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Trim and Councillor Olmsted. Any changes or seeing none? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. The adoption of the minutes of the April 13th special meeting. Recommendation that Council of the Township of Whitewater Region. Oh, I guess I could probably do both of them. Can I at the same time?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Okay. So the adoption of the minutes for April 13th of the special meeting and April 19th and 26th of our regular council meeting. So I have a recommendation the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the minutes as mentioned. If I could get a mover and a seconder, please. Are there any changes, I guess, first to the minutes?
Let's get it moved and seconded.
Oh, moved and seconded. Okay. Councillor Tabbert, and seconded by Councillor Olmsted. Any changes? Councillor Taber.
Is there any way to note that for the April 26 minutes, I was not present for the meeting?
Thank you. Any other changes? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. So next we'll move on to any disclosure of interest. Do I have any councillors with any pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move forward then to item number 6 under presentations, and we have a zoning bylaw amendment. And I will turn this over to Deputy Clerk.
Yeah, so what we'll do is, yeah, no worries. So this is a public meeting with respect to a zoning bylaw amendment. Our planner, Benzie, will make presentation on the matter. And then subsequently to that, the deputy mayor will read the recommendation to the members of council. So if you could just do your planner's statement and then proceed with your presentation. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So if any person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Whitewater Region before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of Council of the Township of Whitewater Region to the Ontario Land Tribunal. The person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. Under Section 3411 of the Planning Act, if Council decides to refuse an application or refuses or neglects to make a decision on an application within 120 days of the municipal clerk receiving the application, the applicant or the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing may appeal to the tribunal by filing an appeal with the clerk of the municipality. Section 3419 of the Planning Act states that not later than 20 days after giving of notice of passing of the bylaw, the applicant, any person or public body who made oral submissions at the public meeting or made a written submission to council before the bylaw was passed, or the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, may appeal to the Land Tribunal by filing an appeal with the clerk of the municipality. So now with that, I will provide some background on the application. Okay, so the present zoning bylaw amendment application is submitted by Ronald Davidson for the lands described as Part 4 of Lot 23 and 24, Ross Concession 4 on Sno Road. And it has been submitted as a condition of consent for a lot addition, which was file number D10-179, and it applies to both the severed and enlarged lands in that application. So this consent application, it was approved conditionally last April 21st, 2002. And the purpose of the lot addition is to divide the Davidson property in half for estate planning. So the property had been previously severed in 1981, creating a small, I don't know if it's possible to zoom in on that. Is it possible to zoom in on the map at all? Or the image? If not, it's okay, but it'll just help us. Perfect, thank you. Back in the 80s, a small blue parcel had been created, and the consent application last year involved a lot addition that adds the area in red to that previously severed blue lot, leaving the area in green as the retained land. So the end result is two essentially large parcels that are the same size and divide the property in half, as opposed to one small little blue parcel and one much larger. So as you can see, the lands front on and access Sno Road, County Road 653, and the lands fall entirely within an area of interest for the mining of magnesium. And at the north end of the property, as you can see there's a licensed white marble quarry. There's also an inactive waste disposal site, shown in yellow there, just southwest of the property. Apart from an existing hunt camp on what will be the severed lands, the subject lands and the lands to be added to are vacant, and no new development or changes of use were proposed at the time of the consent application. So the PPS and the official plan, they both contains policies to protect mineral aggregate resources and other mineral resources, as well as to mitigate impacts between sensitive and non-sensitive uses. So for lands within 500 meters of a quarry, a mineral aggregate impact assessment must be prepared that shows that any new sensitive use won't impact continued operation of that quarry. Whenever a new residential use is proposed in an area of interest for mining, the Ministry of Mines is to be contacted for further information and direction. And lastly, when a sensitive use is proposed within 500 meters of an inactive waste disposal site, a study in accordance with the ministry guidelines on land use on or near landfills and dumps must be submitted. So because the applicant did not propose a change of use of the subject lands at the time of the consent, these studies were not required at that time. Now, if we scroll down just to the zoning image, you'll see that the lands are split zoned extractive industrial, which is the diagonal lines parcel, and that basically is the extent of the license of the quarry. So they're split zoned that, and then they're also zoned rural. So right now, a residential dwelling would be a permitted use in the rural zone. So to make sure that all those issues that I just talked about were addressed, one of the conditions of the consent was that the rural portions of that property be placed in a holding zone. And this would require the completions of the studies to this township's satisfaction, as well as written approval from the Ministry of Mines before that holding is lifted and residential use is permitted. So what this rezoning does, it enables the applicant to proceed with the consent, so to divide it in half for his 2 children into 2 large parcels. And in the future, if and when the property owner of either the retained lands or the lands to be added to the enlarged parcel wishes to construct a dwelling, then at that time, they would have to conduct the studies in order to remove the holding. So during the public and agency circulation, we did receive comments from the ministry, which are attached, and they wrote in favor of our approach, and we did not receive any comments from members of the public. So provided no issues are raised today, staff do recommend that council approve an amendment to the zoning of the property from rural to rural holding to require the completion of a mineral aggregate impact study and waste disposal site impact study, as well as to obtain written approval from the Ministry of Mines before the holding is lifted and residential use is permitted. So thank you, and that concludes my overview presentation.
Great. Thank you very much for that very detailed information. At this time, I would like to ask if the applicant is present anywhere and if there is any... Nothing online? Okay, thank you very much. And if we have anyone from the public that is interested and would like to? Seeing none, okay, this is going very well. And finally to council, if any questions or concerns from council, please. Councillor Moore.
Thank you. I was a little confused when I did read this at first, but now that you've explained it the second time and I've already read over it, I understand that everybody else involved is in favor. So at this time, I'm in favor. Some of this I didn't actually know was happening, so it's nice to have it explained. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other? Councillor Olmsted, please.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Just a question regarding the inactive dump facility. So does that mean it's not licensed anymore? There's, I see we're asking for a study to be done, a waste disposal site impact study. So that wouldn't give them any authority to reopen or do anything with the inactive dump?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. So the study is really just to look at what potential impacts the old waste site may have on the residents. So it's not it's not about reinvigorating or reestablishing the active or the inactive site. It's really just to make sure that whatever was being disposed of there is not going to have an impact on the water, for instance, of a new residential use in that area.
Right. And do we know who actually used that waste disposal site? Like, was it a township site, or what kind of a site was it? I know we're going back in history here.
Yeah, we do know that it is, and so actually, interestingly, when the consent application was done, there's details in the consent application that originally it was mapped in the green parcel, in the severed parcel, and the applicant, the owner, had said that it was actually a little bit further south. So the official plan moved the location of the waste site, and the applicant said that site had been used 50 years ago. So there is probably information that we can get from the province about it. I don't know personally what was being used.
It's probably an old Haley town site facility or something like that, I would imagine, before amalgamation. Just from my curiosity, more or less. But, okay, great. I'm in favor of the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions from council? Seeing none, then I will read the recommendation that Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve an amendment to the zoning category of the property described as part of Lot 23 and 24, Ross Concession 4, from rural RU to a rural holding RUH, to require the completion of a mineral aggregate impact study and waste disposal site impact study, as well as to obtain written approval from the Ministry of Mines before the holding -H is lifted and residential use is permitted. Could I have a mover, Councillor Trim, and a seconder, please? Councillor Tabbert. Any further questions? Seeing none at this time, then we will call for a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next part of our meeting this afternoon. We do have some presentations coming forth. So at this time, I would like to call on Mr. Joseph Kowalski to come forth. He is going to discuss some speed limit reduction on Grand Settlement Road. So thank you very much for joining us today, and look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Madam Deputy Mayor, Council, staff, ladies and gentlemen, I've been thinking about this for many years about Grand Settlement Road. I live on it. I drive it many times every single day, and it is I would say the busiest tourism road in the entire Ottawa Valley from May to Thanksgiving. And you know, there's a saying that the only constant in life is changed, and so my focus these last many decades has always been the river, and in the last several years that focus is still the river, but it's also our roads and our trails. And so not only is Whitewater Region the Whitewater capital of Canada, we hope to do the same thing, and it's very appropriate that the road runners or road cyclists are here today following me, because it actually, I'm a delegate of one, but now I think I have more in my delegation. So anyway, and I know that you're all familiar with Grand Settlement Road. So years ago we purchased the River Run Resort, and we operate out of that location, and 1260 Grand Settlement Road. And with 100 meters, there's our side road, private. There's another side road where we provide access to the river for paddlers, and then on the other side of the road is McCoy Road. And so with the addition of cycling, mountain biking getting bigger and bigger every single year, as it should, we have Whitewater Region we have the perfect terrain for mountain biking and cycling at the same time. Hopefully, Whitewater Region will acquire the rail trail, and that will add to the recreational opportunities. And one of the fortunately, there's a municipal road allowance that will lead from the rail trail right to our location on Grand Settlement Road. So between those three side roads, there's about 400 to 500 cars turning in and out of those three roads every single day, every busy day of the summer. And just upstream or north of those is what we call the S curves. And I do apologize for not having all this to you prior to this meeting. It's just we're suffering the same thing that the mayor is doing. We can operate at any water level, and our first trips are this weekend, and so we have a lot to do on the river that we might not have to do with normal springtime levels. But anyway, so just north of our location is what we call the S-curves, and I provided everybody a map, and again, I do apologize you didn't get it in your handout. And so I put on those S-curves, the red cross are 2 fatalities over the years, and the yellow crosses are just accidents. There are many, many more accidents, but I don't have personal knowledge of those, and I did not want to put them on the map. And so what I would like to see happen is, number one, solve a dangerous situation is that all of us here, we're basically local and we know what the roads are like, and in particular Grant Settlement Road, and it's the one road that I never speed on because I know how risky it is. Other roads I might, but so I always drive slow. We ensure our staff drive slow, our bus drivers drive slow, etc., because there is the potential, just what the Tour to Whitewater is doing, is to make Whitewater region equally famous for road cycling and for mountain biking. It is extremely dangerous, those S-curves, and what I propose to council is that you study the situation. My recommendation is a 50-kilometer speed limit. Right now there are signs, recommended caution signs of a speed limit, but I can tell you most non-locals do not follow those recommended speeds. And so it's common sense. It won't hurt anybody. It's 2 kilometers, and what's going to happen is it'll make that part of Grant Settlement Road safer and friendlier for cyclists who we want to attract to the area. A lot of things, what happens, there's people are into fitness, and even a lot of paddlers who paddle the river. They will paddle down the river, and they will either run back to their vehicle or they will have a bicycle, and so there's just lots of traffic. So that's my recommendation, is council study it. It solves a lot of problems, and it will continue to make Whitewater Region the greatest place on earth. So thank you very much. I'll stand here if there are any questions.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Kowalski. That's great. So I'll turn this over to our councillors. Anybody have any questions for Joe today? Councillor Olmsted?
It looks like I actually left my mic on, sorry. I was ready to go. Thanks, Mr. Kowalski. I would absolutely agree with your comments. I'm down there, as you know, 4 to 5 times a week in a very large truck or a motorcycle or a Jeep or something, but I'm probably down there, actually, come to think of it, about 10 times a week. I would go a step further and say that the property to the, I guess it's east or south of Wilderness Tours entrance, is probably almost as dangerous before you get, so if you're coming from Foresters Falls, about 1 kilometer or 2 before you get to Wilderness Tours entrance, I suggest that that's probably a very dangerous area as well. It gets past Wilson Ray's, right around Mr. Ray's property. So I'd like to see it actually extended to about 4 or 5 kilometer total stretch. The one question I do have is I do know that there is a law that you can only reduce by, I think it's 20 or maybe 30 kilometers an hour. So from one speed limit down, I think it's 20 kilometers an hour, but maybe if Lane was here, he could tell us what that law is. So for instance, if you're coming off a highway, you can't go from 90 to 50. You actually have to go in increments, so 90, 70, 50, that type of thing. But maybe somebody else could look into that.
Yeah, and just for clarity, I think Mr. Kowalski's indicated a reduction to 50 kilometers an hour. Is that correct?
Yes, I drive it every day, and I drove it prior to this meeting at 50 to see what it would be like. And it's appropriate for that 2-kilometer section.
Yeah.
It's 100% appropriate for your own safety as a driver, but we want to encourage cycling and jogging in that section until the road is re-engineered. And what I suggested in my thing is that we have a billboard or we have signage, and it's share the road. And if we make that a campaign, I think the vehicle drivers will honor that, and because they're all here for recreation, and a lot of the paddlers run, a lot of the paddlers cycle, and it's a great direction for our municipality.
Yeah, so just maybe back to the point, what we'll do is have staff prepare a report for council's consideration as a result of Mr. Kowalski's presentation today, and speak to the legislation around the maximum reduction off of the current maximum speed limits.
Thank you very much. Councillor Trim.
Yes, I really appreciate your presentation and the arguments you make, because you are doing them in the interest of safety, and that's very important. Although I do believe that Councillor Olmsted's recollection of the legislation is correct, and I also think that going to 50 would be a struggle to enforce. I know that I'm required by law to drive 50 kilometers in the village in the hamlet of Westmeath, and I struggle to keep to 50. I really do, but I try. Watchhorn Road past Cathy's is 50 also, and it's a struggle to stay at 50. And it's almost, you're almost stating a contradiction, not purposefully, but you're saying that the people who are using the road now, the cyclers, the jogglers, the kayakers, they would stay at 50 if they were told to. You would think that they would be more cautious without being told. You'd think they would already be slowing themselves down because of their attitude and what they're doing there. So I appreciate everything you're saying, Joe, and I can't disagree with it. I'm just thinking, personally, it would be difficult to enforce 50. 60 kilometers per hour would be slower, 20 kilometers slower. It would be safer, and perhaps easier for people to abide and to enforce. Thank you, Madam Chair. Those are my comments.
Thank you very much, Councillor Trim. Yes, Councillor Tabbert.
I think I have to agree, Deputy Mayor. I like the idea of going down to 60, but 50 I think would be difficult. When I started the Whitewater News with Joe, and I used to have to drive that road, 80 kilometers, zoom. And that one corner right there, I'm surprised I didn't play off the road a few times. So I am one of the people who has slowed down because of that. But I think 50 would be too slow. And I think, is there any chance we could make the whole road 60 kilometers an hour? Because it is well used by cyclists, walkers, joggers, runners, it's become a very popular road to go on. And I think 60 would be enough for everything. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Councillor Moore.
Thanks, Joe. This is going to, on our part, we're going to need some more information before we even bring it back to the table. So unfortunately, Lane had to leave the room, but there is a lot that can happen when he comes back with information, whether it be speed audits, et cetera, of what has happened with the road and what's going to happen in the future. So it's definitely on our agenda. Thank you.
Yes, Joe.
If I may make one parting comment, thank you for your attention. I would In response to Councillor Trim and Councillor Olmsted, the S-curves really warrant 50 kilometers an hour. They really do. They all bank to the outside. They're all blind. That's the section, when my kids were growing up and they were in their bicycle years, I would never let them bicycle in that area. So, couple things. I think that still 50, because to get people to do it, if you made it a campaign and you limited it, I don't think that, although where Mr. Ray lives and all that, if you kept it just that 2-kilometer section and you had the speed limit of 50 kilometers, and then you had at the far end 50 kilometers, so that they know that it's not how long it is, and if you appeal to that, and most people, how many of us are on the 401 and the speed limit is 100, and you know that if you go 110, nobody's going to bother you. My only concern is that if you shoot for 50, you're going to get 60, which is better than nothing. And if you do 60, you're going to get 70, which makes it risky. And I will leave it to your decision. But Whitewater Region has a great future on two wheels. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much for your presentation today, Mr. Kowalski. It's greatly appreciated. So we will bring this back to staff, and I'm hoping we can bring it back sooner than later. We are coming into the very busy season, so we'd like to perhaps get something in place here sooner than later. Thank you. Thank you very much. Very good. So now we have a second presentation today, and I would like to welcome Mr. John Purdon to the podium. He is going to talk to us today about the Tour de Whitewater that is coming up here in July. So thank you very much for your presentation today, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Is that better? Nice. Okay. You heard that, didn't you? I'm a pretty good talker. I'm here to talk about the Tour de Whitewater, and as Joe suggested, this is an annual bike ride. This year it's going to be on July 15th. I've been told to be brief, so I'll just try and do that. I'm going to give you a little history, some vision goals and budget, talk to you about the team that we've got assembled, talk to you about the event in a little bit more detail than I have so far, and how we're promoting it, and then Q&A. Actually, I prefer it, if you have a question, just pop it up rather than waiting to the end. I don't want you to do that, if that's okay. I do talk fast, so pay attention. We've run the Tour de Whitewater 3 years. The last one was in 2019, and like a lot of people, we got sort of scuppered by COVID. But in that 2019, we actually had 490 riders that were pedaling around Whitewater Region. The demographics of our riders. Give me a next slide. There we go. The demographics is actually quite interesting. It's pretty much split between men and women. And in fact, over 80% of the riders are between the age of 40 and 80. So in some respects, probably the demographic that you're looking at attracting into the region as well are the kinds of people that we're actually bringing to this event. Routes chosen is just an interesting statistic to see how the different rides that people actually take, and probably not important to the council. Next slide, please. What our goal is to promote Whitewater Region as a great place to live. We want to bring people here, we want to promote local business, and we want to celebrate the outdoors and healthy living. Our goal is, our overriding goal is probably to make Whitewater Region a cyclist destination. In the same way Joe Kowalski has made it a whitewater destination. We think it's just a beautiful place, not too many hills, just a perfect marriage between what we have here naturally and what people are actually doing in the community. Our goals in terms of sort of budgets is to try and attract 500 riders to get back to where we were in 2019. Our proceeds, we're hoping, will be in excess of $5,000 this year. And more operational, but we're trying to up our game a little bit this year. We're doing online registrations as opposed to sort of email and whatnot. We're providing what we think is going to be a better lunch, certainly a more expensive lunch for us. And we're doing a little bit more promotion this year than's been done in the past to try and let people know that it's here. And you'll start to see us in newspapers and road signs and things like that. Next slide, please. This is our team. There's myself. My name's John Purdon. I'm the chair. I'm a recent resident of Whitewater region. I've been here for 3 years. I live in a trailer. They're pouring my floor tomorrow, so I'm best friends with Doug Schultz. I was 25 years in Horton. I'm not probably the greatest bike rider in the world, but I'm pretty good at organizing things, which is how I sort of picked this thing up. Jordan Norris is not here today. She's the smart one in the group. She does all the online registration, the social media stuff and things like that. Ron Mosk. Ron, can you just introduce yourself briefly?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm an active transportation enthusiast, and you've seen me before. I've done presentations.
Excuse me. Mr. Moss, would you just come up to the podium there, just so that we can see you and hear you, and our audience can hear you? Thank you very much.
Yes. Oh, now you can hear me, right. And I've been supporting the Tour to Whitewater since its beginning, so I've been around for I think this is the fourth one. And I've been excited about being involved and plan out the routes. And I really look forward to this year. It's exciting to get people back and up and moving after COVID. Thank you.
Next person on the list is Connie, our inside person in the council, you know.
Hi, Connie Tabbert, and I'm in charge of the rest stations. Aren't I lucky? And I'm the township liaison, so we're hoping to get everything organized through the township, such as road closures and things like that, and I'm enjoying it.
Super. John Wheeler's also not here today. John's actually, like myself, a recent addition to Whitewater region, and he's seeking out sponsors and people who will donate either gifts or dollars to our cause. We also have Kathy. She says she's not going to talk. So she said everybody knows her and she doesn't have to say anything. Kathy was actually the past chair. And so that brings a lot of insight to the group. And Cheryl is also not going to stand up either, are you? Okay. So can we have the next slide, please? So this is the event. We register at between 6:30 and 10 in the morning. We have morning coffee for people there. We have a local company, Gearheads, up in Pembroke, that sets up a booth and does bike repairs for people, make sure that their bikes are safe for the trip. Ride start times start at 8 o'clock and run through to 10 o'clock. We have engaged Mayor Nicholson as our celebrity starter. We're going to get him one of those guns to fire off and get people going. We have 3 rest stations, as Connie, I don't know if Connie actually said, but we'll have 3 rest stations, one in La Paz, one in Foresters Falls at the Ross Museum, and one in Beachburg. After the ride, they come back and have a barbecue lunch, burgers and sausages, salads, and ice cream sundaes. There is a cash bar, there's door prizes, and there will be some entertainment as well, okay? And so the whole event wraps up around 2 o'clock. The fees are $60 for individuals. We also have a special rate for families, $60 for families. Don't care how many you've got. They don't get a t-shirt, okay, so that's how we economize and are able to do it. But we're trying to encourage families, and it would seem from the statistics we've seen so far that people are taking us up on that, and we're seeing more families probably than we have in previous years. And we have a lunch-only option. If you don't feel like riding, you can just come for lunch. WDRA is also having a big breakfast in the morning, but it's not part of our fee structure, and it's just something that people can take advantage of if they choose. Promotion, we are on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, we have posts, we have ads. We're doing Instagram posts. Radio, we're sort of toying with, sort of seeing if our population comes up as to whether or not we're going to move ahead with that. You'll see road signs probably in the next week to 10 days. We do email to our past participants to let them know that we're having the event. We've done that once already. We'll probably do it monthly for the next 2 months. We're currently doing newspaper ads in WDRA, Whitewater News, Petawawa Post. We're toying with the Observer and the Mercury and Leader, and we're not sure whether we're going to move ahead with that. You may have seen posters at different locations and stores and whatnot around the region. And the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association, we gave them those flyers that I left at everybody's desk. So they put those in all the tourist kiosks throughout the region, and hopefully it's going to attract people, and people are going to want to come, and that'll be it. So that's it. I'm sure I'm within 10 minutes. So are there any questions at all?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Purdon. This is greatly appreciated. Yes, does council have any questions for Mr. Purdon at this time? Councillor Tappert.
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor. Do we have a number of registrations so far?
We have 70 registrations, but I believe it's 20 of them are families, so I can't tell you how many are in the families. So I would be guessing that we're probably 120. Honestly, I think it's a little soft for where we are, but we did get a late start as well. And so that may be accounting for it. And also this awful weather, people aren't getting their bikes out. And so that may be accounting for it as well. So we're still, hopeful that we can get to that 500 number, but we're probably a little shy right now.
Great, thank you very much. Any other Councillor Moore, please?
I trust that our fellow council member here will let us know if there's anything we can do to help that day when time gets a little closer.
I'll write your name. I'll write your name down.
Anyone else? Yes, Councillor Olmsted, please.
Thanks for the presentation. Just go back to the 2019 demographic page.
Yep,
No,
that's it.
that one.
Oh, that one, yeah?
Yeah, now it looks like there's been a huge difference in male to female, but that's only 4%.
It's just the graph. If you look at it, it's 48 to 52.
Yes, I'm
so
kidding.
it's just, you can't, I can only do so much. I can make the pretty pictures and I can do all the stuff, but you just can't change the graph.
My real question, though, is how do people actually sponsor? I don't think there's much on here about sponsorship, but how do people, because I think as council, I think we had an opportunity to make a donation last year as part of our
In fact, we
funds.
submitted a grant request, and I believe Ivan is the guy who rules on that. I'm not 100% sure of that, but we did submit a grant request to the township, telling them about us and giving them all the
I'm
information.
speaking more of the general public, so how would a business or Mrs. John Doe at home, how would they actually make a donation to?
John Wheeler is our sponsor person, okay? So I can, I don't know how to do this, but I can get you my email, I can get you his email address and let you know. He's certainly going out to solicit different businesses and whatnot, but probably nobody personally, if that was your question. Right. I know we went to a place called Home Hardware here in town. Just saying. Just saying.
I saw a check yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Well, there you go. So that would be how it's done. But in truth, you're right. We don't advertise sponsors. Please contact, and it might be it's probably a good idea.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Trim, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. One way, of course, we can all sponsor is by registering. And Colleen says that she has registered us, and I hope she has, because this is now on Facebook. But anyway, she plans to, if she hasn't, if we're not one of the 2 of the 70. But that's another way that we can sponsor, of course, is to simply register. And so I encourage all councillors to register, and everyone else who might be listening.
Yeah. And I,
Joey, you doing the 100?
Very good. It sounds like I may have to purchase a bike. May want an e-bike. Anyway, thank you very much
You're welcome.
for your
Thank you very much
presentation
again
today,
for
Mr.
allowing me
Purdon.
the
It's
time.
wonderful, and we look forward to, and let's hope July 15th is a bright, sunny day and there is no rain in the forecast. So thank you very much. Oh, yes.
Yeah, thanks. Just to close out with respect to the grant that John was referring to. So the township does, through its annual budget, consider what we call tourism and event grants. So that was passed by council for the 2023 budget. The amount that was budgeted was $3,500 for 2023, and the maximum grant per event, I think, is in the range of about $750. And it supports essentially organizations that are putting on events that bring tourism to our community. So just for the general public that's out there, certainly we're open to applications. I think the Tour to Whitewater was the first application, so there are still funds remaining. It's a first come, first served basis, and there is a review committee, not solely the CAO who reviews these. So the review committee is the one to review them and assign whether or not they're eligible. Thanks so much. Yeah, so I guess the deputy mayor has indicated, was there a photo that you guys had wanted? We could take a quick photo if you want. Sure. With the members of council and. Sure. All right.
yeah, we want Connie on the bike.
What's that, Lee?
We want Connie on the bike.
But I also want to add that the council, in the past, the council has been fantastic in terms of supporting us. The roads guys, blocking off roads, signs, whatever we needed, they were there, and I trust that that's going to continue.
Okay, thank you. So we're just going to take just a 5-minute recess right now, or a 3-minute recess. Thank you. Thank you very much. So at this time, I am going to turn the meeting back over to Mayor Nicholson, who has returned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I appreciate, and we'll talk about that in a moment, and why I had to be absent, but I appreciate you taking care of business. Excellent. Next item on the agenda is 6.4, MPAC presentation, and I will turn it over to our treasurer for an introduction.
Thank you, Mayor Nicholson. Doing the presentation is Jennifer Gruntz. She's the account manager of Zone 6 for municipal and stakeholder relations, and she's going to be doing a presentation on MPAC 101 for council.
So just a confirmation that right now we've just lost our presenter. Her Zoom connection dropped, so we're going to give her another moment to see if she can reconnect, and if not, we'll move on. Jennifer, are you online?
Hi, sorry, I'm having some problems hearing you guys.
No problem. Can you hear me now?
Sorry, are you able to hear me now? Well, there, are you able to hear me now?
Yes, we got you now.
Okay, my apologies.
No problem. Our treasurer just did an introduction, Jennifer, so you can jump right in.
Okay, sorry. Just easy.
No. And would you like to share your screen for your presentation, or do you want us to go through the package that you sent here?
I think Carmen was going to put it up.
Perfect. It's up.
Perfect.
You're good.
Okay. With MPAC for all of Renfrew County. I'd just like to take a second and say congratulations to all of you on your new or re-elected positions, and I look forward to working and getting to know all of you over the next few years. So please know that we're all here to help, and not just myself, but there's a whole team who can answer any questions who you may that may have or may arise. Know that municipal relationships are a huge priority to MPAC, and we really want to continue to elevate both the municipal and property owner experience. Nope. Okay, we'll just move on to the next one. So just at MPAC, we are Ontario property experts. So our job is to classify and assess more than 5.5 million properties across Ontario, and those are worth a combined value of more than $3 trillion. In the past year, Ontario has grown by approximately 45,000 new residential homes, and in 2022, we added more than $37 billion to Ontario's assessment rolls. Every municipality uses our assessments to make informed decisions about their community, including distribution of property taxes. We know that Ontario's property tax system and these assessments generate approximately $30 billion in tax revenue annually. So we'll go to the next one, please. So there are 4 key players in Ontario's property assessment and taxation system. We have the provincial government, MPAC, municipalities, and then our property owners. So start at the top, the provincial government, so specifically the Minister of Finance, is responsible for setting and assessing and setting assessment and taxation legislation, as well as policies. They also determine the education property tax rates. And under this umbrella is also known as the Assessment Review Board, and they're an independent body that adjudicates appeals for MPAC's assessed values. Second, we have MPAC, and we are an independent, non-for-profit corporation, and we're funded by all Ontario municipalities. And our role is to accurately assess and classify all properties in Ontario. And we do this in compliance with the Assessment Act and regulations that are set out by the Ontario government. We are also accountable to the province, municipalities, and property or taxpayers through a board of directors that is comprised of municipal, provincial, and taxpayer representatives that are also appointed by the Minister of Finance. And then next we have municipalities. So municipalities, as we know, they determine the budgets, determine budget requirements, set tax rates, collect property taxes to fund your municipal services such as your police, fire, roads, etc. And we know that municipalities use our assessments to establish tax rates so that they can distribute their tax rate requirements to their ratepayers appropriately. And then finally, we have our property owners. So the property owners are the ones who are responsible paying the tax bills, and they also help to set market value through ongoing property purchase and sales. So what else do we do? What is our work like? So we maintain Ontario's property database, and we know that this is very important. We continuously update so that municipal records are accurate and so that you can make informed tax decisions. So some of these include inspecting and assessing new constructions, additions, and renovations. We track school support data, complete requests for reconsiderations and appeals. We respond to property owner inquiries, and we also work on educating them to understand how their assessment works. In addition, we support municipalities by providing ongoing local support. We provide them access to Municipal Connect, and this is a platform where municipal stakeholders can obtain assessment-related information. And in addition, we also work collaboratively on projects that are important to you. So our most recent one would be the digital permitting plan, or iCloud. So next one, we also update every single property assessment in Ontario based on the same legislated valuation date. And we call this an assessment update or a reassessment. So this is the valuation date for the most recent assessment date, and that took place in 2017. And that was January 1st, 2016. And that would be for the tax years of 2017 to 2020, plus the last current 3 years. This is when we determined what every property in Ontario could have reasonably sold for at its current state and condition at that particular point in time. The reassessment that was scheduled to occur in 2020 was postponed by the province to determine or to provide stability to both Ontarians and to ensure municipalities were able to focus on the challenges that were presented them posed by the pandemic. So as a result, property assessments continue to be based on the legislative valuation date of January 1st, 2016. Regular reevaluation of properties ensures that assessments stay up to date and similar properties of similar values in the same municipalities pay similar property taxes. Provincial legislation determines when MPAC conducts each province-wide assessment update, and then in turn sets the valuation date for each update cycle. So how the assessment works. Throughout the assessment cycle, there's a few main parts. This slide kind of shows the link between the chosen valuation date, which we are not unknown, the mailing of the MPAC property assessment notices, and the phase-in cycle for the following 4 years. The phase-in program was introduced by the province to provide some additional level of stability for property taxpayers. So when properties experience a market increase from one reassessment cycle to the next, the value between those assessments, that assessment base, is gradually increased over the 4 years by a 25% increase each year. However, if that assessment decreases, that decrease is applied flatline on the first year, and there's no phase. The value just stays the same for the whole entire 4-year cycle. So I'm going to briefly talk to you about the 3 approaches to value. So we have 3. There's the direct comparison, income approach, and cost approach. So the direct comparison approach is the most common, and we use recent sales of comparable properties, and they're analyzed to provide an indication of value. We use sold properties to determine the value of the unsold properties. So this would include residential properties such as condos, vacant land, and just your regular everyday single family dwellings. So with that, there's 5 main factors that make up 85% of the value of these properties. So we have location, lot dimensions, exterior square footage, quality of construction of the home, and age of the property. Next, moving on, we have the income approach. And this is the ability to earn revenue. So it's the income by way of the rent that the landlord can generate through the ability to lease the space, not the business being run from that location and the revenue being generated, say, by the quote-unquote box store. This method requires analysis of the income and expenses, both for the property being valued and other similar properties, to determine how much income a property could be expected to generate if it did sell on the open market. So some examples would be industrial malls, large medical, dental buildings, office buildings, sports stadiums. And then finally, we have the cost approach. So this approach is used when property type is unique and rarely sells on the open market. So it's a kind of a 3-step approach. First, we would calculate the cost of physically replacing the buildings, structures, or accessible features on that piece of land. Then we would apply a deduction for the depreciation on all the structures due to such an age, or any functional or economic adjustments that may be applied. And then finally, we would determine the land value to produce an overall value. So it's kind of A plus B, C gives you the overall value of these structures. And these would be used for like general purpose, industrial property, small retail, gravel pits, warehousing. Next, so what draws our attention to a property? So typically it's one of the following things. So we have a sale, a request from a municipality or a property owner, a building permit, or a request for reconsideration or appeal. So MPAC's role is to take building permits and plans and turn them into assessments. So every year, MPAC processes on average about 300,000 building permits for new development and or renovations. And we realize that our municipal partners rely on our MPAC's assessments to levy property tax. So the sooner MPAC can deliver assessments, the sooner our municipal stakeholders can realize new revenue. So after we assess a property or change an assessment, we mail the property owner the property assessment notice. And sometimes property owners don't agree with their new assessed values. So as a property owner, they might connect with you to express some of their discomfort, or they're looking for next steps. So I just want to share with you a few important steps that you can maybe help to that you can relay to your community. So if you do get an inquiry, you can help by asking the property owner a few questions. So could they have sold their property on January 1st, 2016 for the assessed value? So if the answer is yes, then that would indicate that they are fairly assessed. Next, you could encourage them to visit our online application About My Property to review the information that MPAC has on file regarding their property to ensure it's correct. If they used About My Property to connect, they can conduct comparable research on assessed values in their areas. And then finally, if they still disagree with their assessed value, then they have the option to file a request for reconsideration, and MPAC will review that free of charge. There's also an ability to file an appeal with the Assessment Review Board if the request for reconsideration isn't come to an amicable decision, and there is a charge for the Assessment Review Board. So the fastest way for them to file the request for reconsideration would be on the online platform. So in anticipation of the next province-wide reassessment, we have implemented a strategy to address misconceptions about the relationship between assessed value, taxation, including resources for municipalities. So this is a digital toolkit available on MPAC.ca, and that can help municipalities and elected officials mitigate information and provide support and resources to educate and inform property owners. So in this digital toolkit, you can find a new video, and it's how your property tax are calculated based on the assessed value of your home. Just wondering if we can go to the next one. Are you able to play the video?
It would appear so. Just give it a few seconds here.
Perfect, thank you.
We'll skip this mosquito ad and we'll get right to it.
Thanks, Doug.
Here it is.
Doesn't necessarily mean your taxes will go up. To explain, let's take a look at how your property taxes are calculated. Imagine there's a town that only has 3 homes, and they're each worth a different amount. The total cost to provide all of the town's services is $1,200. This is collected through property taxes. Each homeowner pays property taxes based on their home's assessed value. So we take the total cost of services and divide it by the total property value. This tax rate is applied to all the houses to get enough money to pay for the town's services. Each homeowner pays according to the assessed value of their home, and every 4 years, the houses are reassessed. Let's say all 3 properties have gone up equally in value. The total cost of services hasn't changed, but the total property value has increased. When this happens, there will be a decrease in the tax rate. Now, when we apply that new rate on all the homes, everyone still pays the same. Now, let's say another 4 years has gone by, and these homes are reassessed. During this time, the house on the right gains more market value than the other 2. The total value of all the homes have increased, which means the town has to calculate a new tax rate. With this new tax rate, the first 2 homes will actually pay less than the home on the right that was reassessed at a higher value. Since the cost of services hasn't changed, the town doesn't need to collect more property taxes on the whole. However, since property taxes are based on a home's value, taxes for each individual home could potentially go up or down based on the rest of the homes. So, what happens when the cost to provide services goes up? Well, it means more property taxes need to be collected from every home, and a new tax rate is calculated. To get the new rate, we take that amount that the town now needs and divide it by all of the property values. The new rate is applied to all the homes, and now everyone has to pay the new tax amount to continue to fund the town's services. So, let's review. 1. Property taxes are based on the assessed value of a home. If all assessments go up equally, everyone pays the same. 2, if all assessments do not go up equally, there's a redistribution of the tax. 3, if the town's cost to provide services increases, the municipality may choose to increase the tax rate. When this happens, everyone pays their share of that increase. And that explains the relationship between property value and property taxes.
Perfect. Thank you for watching that. I hope you had it informative. So please note that video is on MPAC.ca. I know many municipalities have included that on their website as a resource for municipalities and for homeowners and property owners. And additionally, there are some one-pagers and myth versus fact in that digital resource kit. So, please feel free to take a look when you have a time to take a quick read over so you know what you can share with your homeowners. So there's a few other options to stay connected, and we have a monthly newsletter, and it's called In Touch, that can be subscribed to. And we are also on social media on Facebook, Twitter. We have a YouTube channel that also includes many other great short couple-minute videos. And then, like I said before, the In Touch. And that's pretty much all I have for you. So thank you for having me here today, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much for that, Jennifer. And the YouTube video was excellent. A nice, concise way to be able to describe a complex situation. So thank you. What I'll do now is I'll open it up to the rest of council to see if anybody's got any questions or comments on your presentation. Councillor Moore.
Hi, thank you for that. This is my 5th year in council, and that's the first time I've seen that. So very insightful. Just wondering, because of COVID, when is Whitewater's turn to be reassessed? Any idea?
Unfortunately, we do not have any idea. That new date will be determined by the Minister of Finance, and we have yet to be advised of what that date will be. However, once we do find out, we will certainly be communicating that out as quickly as possible.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Excellent. Jennifer, I'll just thank you again. I really appreciate, oh, and now I recognize the second name on your slide.
There's 2 of us.
Yes, is Tracy, is Tracy your boss or your
She
coworker?
is, yes. No, she is my boss.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So
No, I ran into
she's
her
around to take
at
questions too.
that's perfect. I ran into her at a AMO conference and really appreciated the time that she spent helping make me understand this stuff better. So thank you to both of you, and I really appreciate the time that you invested us in today. And I know our treasurer is going to dig into whatever resources are available and make sure that they're available for our residents as well. So thank you.
Right. And yeah, thank you again. And I apologize for being virtually today. The next time I'd like to be able to come meet everybody in person and continuing working with the municipal staff as well. So thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Hopefully we'll connect again. Thank you.
Sounds good. Take care.
Bye. Good. Next on our agenda is item 6.5, our first quarter administration update. And we have a motion. A recommendation is that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region receive the first quarter administration report for information purposes. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Olmsted. And CAO, I'll turn it over to you and staff.
Yeah, thanks so much. So very pleased to be able to provide the new members of council, those re-elected and those that are new, with our first 2023 Q1 quarterly report. So what we'll do, as we have in the past, is I'll just review my message here from the CAO, and then I'll circulate it to the different departments. What I would suggest we do, unless otherwise recommended, we wait till the end, and any questions you have for specific departments, we could direct them individually to the different services. So my message here is just highlighting that our accomplishments, operational transitions, and what comes next as part of the Q1 of 2023. So just highlighting that we were able to adopt our 2023 budget, subject to council's proper direction and clear direction, as of mid-February of this year, which is quite remarkable, I would say, subsequent to an election. We will see a significant investment in core infrastructure in the tune of $2.7 million. So that extends to our Beachburg water treatment plant rehabilitation and our roads projects. We'll also see significant investment to support building and fleet renewal, as well as more investment to understand our assets a bit better and to better allocate future funds in the future. So as we transition here in March, now we are in May, but in our Q1 here we've transitioned. Our arenas are now closed. The snow plowing was essentially completed, if not at the end of March, sometime in April. So we're transitioning to the road grading, cleaning of culverts, and the operations of our parks. So recognizing that staff are in the process of this transition, and we support the residents' patience as we do this transition. We've also highlighted some of the fire department staff with respect to their retirements and achievements at their awards that was held on February 18th. So just recognizing that piece of staff, as well as all of our volunteers with respect to the Whitewater Seniors Home Support and Active Living Center. So lastly, as we progress moving forward, recognizing that we will have to manage this year's freshet, which is upon us in full force, ensuring that our roads and parks are well kept to support our tourism and our local residents. And I'm looking forward to the consolidation of our zoning bylaw, as well as the strategic planning exercise we're underway. So that's a message from myself, and I'll pass it over to maybe Doug first under community development for any highlights with respect to building services.
Good afternoon, everyone. The building department again is very busy. last year we had $7.2 million assessment in the first quarter, and this year we're at 6.9 already. We are up a little bit in building the permits, and it seems to be going to be a busy year again, which is great. And if you have any questions, I'll answer them after.
Yeah, thanks so much. Maybe over to you, Planner Benzie, if you wish to just provide a summary on the activities and such.
Sure. Well, I guess one thing, I started basically partway through the Q1, and I just want to take this time to thank everybody for their patience as I get up to speed, and also just for making me feel so welcome here. I really appreciate that. And so in addition to the development applications that we've been reviewing, as our CAO just mentioned, with his support, we've also rekindled the review of our comprehensive zoning bylaw, and we've also made a lot of great progress on implementing the growth strategy recommendations for the Village of Cobden, particularly with our partnership with the county on reviewing the Bennett Meadows Plan of Subdivision as well. We've had a lot of great support from the Public Works staff on that as well. And looking forward, we're continuing to make process improvements in our department, and we're also going to start planning for the Taste of the Valley event, which is really exciting. We also know there's a lot of new policy changes from the province that we're gearing up for and getting ready to implement too. So stay tuned for more info on that. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks so much. So just highlighting here that we have the two staff that sort of lead those services, and that the management remains on the CAO at this time, so I still serve as the manager of community development within this realm. So thanks so much. Moving forward, we'll go to the finance and administration. And again, maybe before you go ahead, Curtis, just highlighting that we do have a series of new staff bringing new ideas, and that was noted in my message, but I didn't highlight it when I first spoke. So Planner Benzie and Treasurer McGonigal and Environmental Superintendent Nicholson are all new employees to the township in the last 3 months, so just recognizing that they're here with us. Thanks.
Thank you. So just echoing the planner's comment, I've just started in Q3 at the very end of it, so I wasn't part of the entire portion of it, like the entire piece of it. I started on the 13th of March, but things that happened in that quarter were the passing of the 2023 operating capital budget. The 2022 year-end audit is underway. Interim billing has gone out, and we are currently doing recruitment for a new deputy treasurer. Looking ahead, we're looking to issue an RFP for insurance services and implement our iCity Online.
Thanks so much. And then moving on to Jonathan from the fire services, our chief, Jonathan. Thanks so much.
Good afternoon. Q1 was pretty regular for us as far as response, 22 calls this year as opposed to 21 last year in the same time frame. We did have an increase in vehicle collisions and extrications this year, unfortunately. Our key activities were the recruitment and hiring of 9 new firefighters. Also very typical to last year, and that just keeps our numbers the same with retirements. Our first annual exemplary service and retirement recognition took place in February. I appreciate all the support from council and the community for that. Our firefighters who were hired last year finished their mandatory certification, or at least step 1 of it, in Q1 as well. Looking ahead, we have our annual smoke alarm program taking place in May. So we might have a knock on your door reminding you of the importance of functioning smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms. And April and May is a busy months for us with our training, first aid, CPR, and getting ready for forest fire season. Thank you.
And then thanks so much, Chief McLaren. So then the Office of the CAO, so just highlighting a few items that have occurred through the Office of the CAO. So we have been, Mayor Nicholson and I, attending some CAO mayor partnership meetings with neighboring municipalities. So we met with the City of Pembroke, the Township of Admiston-Bromley, the Township of Laurentian Valley, and the Town of Renfrew. So those were within the Q1. We have since met with the Township of Horton in the early part of Q2. So these meetings are certainly indicating support in different areas that we could see that we could work together with our neighboring municipalities, and will likely lend itself well as we enter this next stage of the flooding event, and we lean on our neighbors for support. So I attended the Roma conference, and the 3 ministry delegations. In attendance with me were Mayor Nicholson, Councillor Trim, and Councillor Talbert. And then just the last couple items here. So led the recruitment of our planner, economic development officer, the senior liaison coordinator, and the treasurer, and also supported the recruitment of our engineering and environmental superintendent. And we continue to manage the acquisition of that CN rail line. So just highlighting that from the Office of the CAO. Moving forward to Parks and Rec, maybe over to you, to Parks and Rec Superintendent Mr. McIntyre. Thanks so much.
Thanks, CAO. As the CAO had mentioned, on March 27th, we removed the ice from the two arenas. Over the course of the full season, our total ice rentals were 2,178 hours, 1,482 of them being in Cobden, 695 in Westmeath. We had 70 hours of pickleball rentals on the slab in Beachburg. That was up until freeze up around Christmas. The upstairs hall in Cobden had 272 hours of hall rentals during that season. A note would be that the previous season, 2021-2022 season, the total ice rentals were 2,066.5 with 3 arenas. And another note on that would be that we were closed 3 weeks because of COVID on that number. We plan on putting in the installation of the 9 bike racks at locations due to the where it was stated in the active transportation study. So then bike racks will be going up this summer. Let's get back on ice for a second. The success this year was one of the best years I've seen in public skating. We had 1,823 total skaters. 1,230 of them skaters were in 1,230 in Cobden. 1,830 in Cobden and 1,230 in Westmeath. We are now transitioning into the park season. The tender on the new compressor for Cobden closes today. And we had 12 grants submitted for the recreational grant. They've been forwarded to the CAO to be reviewed by the committee. And monthly inspections will start on playgrounds and have already started. That's all from the rec department.
Thanks so much, Mr. McIntyre. So just moving on to Public Works.
Thank you. Yeah, our staff were busy during the first quarter of the year doing snow removal and maintaining the roads. Approximately, we've seen 45 weather events, which is very similar to last year. The one difference from last year that we doubled our times. We removed snow from the hamlets to the villages to 15 from 7 last year. And we're also seeing a 25% increase in salt usage based on the winter events we've had to a total of 681. One thing we're looking forward to is have this year is a salt management plan based on them numbers. And looking ahead, that we're also looking to create a transportation bylaw that would identify all stop signs and the speed within the villages and on the roads. And that we also hired Dan Nicholson, that was hired in the first quarter, which her role will be the environmental engineering superintendent. And with that, I'll pass it to Deanna.
Thank you. I've been here about a month and a half, just at the tail end of Q1. And so I'd like to provide a little bit of information on what I've seen since the month and a half that I've been here. As far as waste management goes, something that we keep track of year over year is looking at our tonnages of how much we are collecting curbside and taking to our landfill. So in the first quarter of this year, 315 tons went to our landfill for landfilling. A comparison, approximately 323 tons went to our landfill in Q1 in 2022. So we're seeing potentially a little bit of a decrease there, which is good. As well, I've also provided some numbers on the amount of recyclables being collected curbside. And again, 2022 versus 2023, we have very similar numbers. This year, 114 tons were collected in the first quarter for plastic, glass, metal, and fibers, which is great to see that numbers are staying steady and volumes are decreasing going in the landfill for the first little bit. So some key activities that I have done over the last couple weeks being here has been a lot of review of annual reports from our water treatment plants across the municipality and our wastewater treatment plants, and presented to council some active investigations and stuff going on with that. Moving forward, in support of water and wastewater management in the town, we will be working on some updating and combining some bylaws with respect to water and wastewater, as well as waste management, and to get a good handle on everything that goes along with that. So I can pass it on from there.
Was there anything else you want? Thank you so much. So just the last section here is council business. So just highlighting that council did pass 24 bylaws in Q1, including the budget and user fees and charges bylaw, as well as 3 site plans for development applications. We've seen 25 staff reports that were presented to council, extending from the comprehensive zoning bylaw to procedural bylaw amendments, and some grant funding opportunities. And we've seen some presentations from the public and organizations extending from the Whitewater Seniors and the Renfrew OPP. So that's the last item. I would just like to highlight all of staff efforts in putting this together, and certainly takes a lot of time to gather all the information and consolidate it and summarize it to the point where it's legible for the members of council and a quick cursory review. The last item that was not included, and I've just noticed it now, is typically we've given council a summary of the budget variance by large departments. So what we'll do is, through the Treasurer McGonigal, I'll have him prepare something and email it to the members of council. So it'll indicate to you where we are on a budget GL line numbers with respect to the first quarter, just to give you an update where we are on that. So gladly to answer any questions if there are any. Back to you, Mayor Nicholson. Thanks so much.
Thank you, CAO. Before I make any comments, I'll open up to the floor. I know it's an awful lot of information, but you had a chance to review the report. Is there any questions or comments that members of council want to make? I'll start with the Deputy Mayor.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Just one new staff member that we should possibly mention is Margaret Morin. She joined, and perhaps I can turn that over to the CEO, just a new staff member.
Thanks so much. So essentially, we have recruited a new seniors liaison coordinator. So this person is the one who manages the Whitewater Region Seniors Active Living and Home Support Pilot Program. We had traditionally had a full-time staff person through till February of 2023, but due to lack of funding, permanent funding for that matter, we've had to transition that to a part-time position, and a successful candidate was Margaret Morin, who's been hired. So she's here not on a set schedule per se, but she's here essentially 20 hours a week. So she's been able to sort of manage the dealings of the Whitewater Seniors groups and the events and all the different partnerships to date, and she's getting a pretty good handle on it. So just recognizing that Margaret's with us now, and to the public, she's available for contact if you're looking for some direction or services relating to seniors. Thanks so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Moore.
Me already. This is for Parks and Rec, Jerry. You mentioned tender has gone out. Can you refresh my memory on that?
Yes, we put a tender out for the compressor number 1 at the Cobden Arena. It closes today.
Okay, no, I remember. So my next question then, which is, I only have 2. The company that will be doing our annual maintenance on our compressors, et cetera, how does this fit into this contract, or does it?
So we don't have a set contractor that does our maintenance. So the tender process will go through. The successful bidder will get the job, who has many that bid accordingly.
Okay, so that brings a third question. And I look at the mayor and the CAO, should we have a contract with these people to come and do our regular maintenance, or are we just calling them as needed?
No, so I typically look after the plants, and then if I require a technician, then I contact a technician to come to the site.
Okay, but they're not on referral then? They just, what happens if they don't come? Because we don't have a contract.
Sorry, I'm just going to jump in. I'll get the CAO to confirm that basically you're talking about the procurement instrument to support those compressors.
Yeah, so I would just say that in the parks and recreation world and these arena plants, so we're always hopeful that the plants don't fail to start, and we're hopeful that Jerry could manage the plants as they lie. We don't have a sort of an ongoing procurement piece with one specific company for maintenance. That's clear. Typically, what we do is verify availability and the contractor that's best suited to deal with that piece of equipment. So if it's the compressor that was manufactured by this company, there's probably certain companies that are best suited to sort of fix those components. So again, Jerry would manage what company we use with respect to the maintenance piece, depending on what the issue is and the gravity of the issue.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Any other questions from members of council? I know Councillor Olmsted is just waiting to receive the budget variance by quarter. He loves numbers, so our treasurer, I'm sure he'll be the first one to dig into that one. Sorry, but any other questions? No. What I will just highlight and compliment staff, this type of work, it may seem onerous and difficult to compress all of this information into one small report that you accomplish in a quarter, but it's vitally important for the transparency to the public. It's a way for us to report back to them. They can take reference in it for their specific areas of interest. We take note of it and can compare by quarter how things are going. So your efforts are recognized, and we thank you so much for investing so much into our township. It's good. Anything else? Okay, I have to take a formal vote to close this one off. Does anybody need the recommendation reread? None? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And the motion is carried. Excellent. Next on the agenda is the mayor's address. And I'm going to get into this, and hopefully I've already asked our support, our IT support, Sean, if there might be a way for us to cut out the portion of the mayor's address and we could include it on our social media later. And in essence, the reason my absence earlier in the meeting and my busyness earlier today has had to do with the flood situation. So I've prepared a little bit of language here that I'll make a presentation. I'll offer the floor up to questions after I'm done. Good. So the flooding situation along the Ottawa River has significantly changed in the last 2 days. Based on the input from the Municipal Emergency Control Group, as well as external agencies, I have decided to declare this flood an emergency. This will allow the township to take the steps the necessary steps in our emergency response plan. The rainfall across the whole watershed, combined with the melts in the northern watershed, has impacted almost every lake and waterway in our area. However, the biggest impact we are now seeing is on the Ottawa River, where levels have raised over 60 centimeters over the last 2 days. And we are not sure if this is the peak or if it will continue to rise. We have now passed 2017 levels, and the forecast is currently very close to 2019 levels. Water is flowing at over 4,000 meters per second cubed. And as a result, we're seeing water back up on most of our coastline. We currently have 5 private roads that are no longer passable by vehicle, including emergency vehicles, and we are monitoring very closely for any impact on our municipal roads. There are approximately 100 homes that are cut off or surrounded by water, and in some cases, water has now entered their living spaces. We have received requests from a number of residents for additional sand and sandbags as the flooding impacts a number of other areas spread out along our coastline. We are providing additional loads of sand in key locations with sandbags to help property owners take action. We are also going to use our fire department to mass produce sandbags for the public at the Westmeath Garage, and that will start this evening. And are seeking support from other volunteer disaster service groups to see if they can also assist homeowners directly. I'm also making a plea for community volunteers. I ask that you reach out to family and friends and neighbors who you know who might be flooding to see how you can help. You can also volunteer to help at the mass sandbagging to help fill sandbags. Our emergency staff will monitor our residents remaining in locations and will be able to help facilitate evacuation and connection to evacuation services. We will also be establishing a community relief center for volunteers and residents to gather. More information will follow on that later. I encourage residents that are isolated by water or require assistance to register with the Township Office. Please continue to monitor our website and social media. There'll be subsequent updates and a scheduled press releases for the community. That ends my formal statement. What I did earlier during the presentation portion of the meeting the Deputy Mayor chaired is I reached out to our MPP, our MP, our neighboring mayors, and our warden to make sure that they are aware of the declaration. At this point in time, we're not asking for assistance. The measures, the declaration of emergency helps us to be able to better execute the support. If there are needs that are identified, that'll be identified up through Site Command, the Emergency Operations Center, and we'll take action on them at that point in time. So, based on that, I'm first going to just ask the CAO if there's anything he wanted to add at this point.
Communications will be forthcoming.
Good. So, as he said, communications will be forthcoming. I open it up to members of council, Deputy Mayor, if there are any questions or comments that you want to make. Councillor Olmsted.
Yeah, do we know, I understand that there's two levels of flooding, one the uncontrolled portion in our township now, and then the controlled portion. They release the northern waters. Do we know how they started releasing any of the northern waters?
I have to be very careful. I don't have exactly what is happening. I'm interpreting data from the OttawaRiver.ca website and information that we're getting up through the Frechette meetings. The northern melt and the waters that are being contained in the reservoirs are being released a little bit, and that was to allow the rainfall that we saw over the last 3 or 4 days that's also falling on that part of the watershed to be collected there. How close they are to the point where they have to increase flows out of those reservoirs is not known yet, and that impact can't be forecasted. So unfortunately, there's still a lot of unknowns out there. Good. Anything else, Councillor Olmsted?
Yeah, I guess. And secondly, I see for the next 2 weeks, it looks like we're going to get some decent weather around here as far as rainfall and sun goes. Do you anticipate any relief due to that?
Not getting any more rainfall is a positive. I'll call that relief. The best case scenario is that the levels don't increase. They're able to drain, and the level coming into our area can release at the same time. Even better would be we could release more than we're receiving. But based on historical information with the first and the second surge, we can't forecast that right now. So at this point, I don't want to raise expectations of our residents. I don't know. We'll have another update from OttawaRiver.ca after 4 p.m. this afternoon, and hopefully that will have some good news. Good.
Thank you so much.
Is there any other questions or comments? Councillor Moore.
Just on what's happened so far, sometimes it's hard to keep up on the information. So when you're going to do something on Facebook or whatever, can you also send it to us in the email? Because some of us don't always get it. Sometimes it's 48 hours before we see it. So could you keep us in the loop somehow via email or something?
Absolutely. And that is also part of our activation. There is a clear communication strategy. I think we're planning for 2 updates a day and those will be provided to council directly through email or whatever means, or even if we have to call a small teams meeting. But that'll be controlled by staff. So yes, you will be getting regular updates twice a day on the circumstances that we have. It's a good point. CAO?
Yeah, I would just add for the members of council, so as a result of what's occurred in the past, we have sort of prepared strategically on how to manage these emergencies. So we do have, and it would have been this council back in February, we adopted emergency management plans, which are the plans that guide how we're going to manage these incidents. We also have a flood readiness plan. So these plans, these strategies will help shape staff decisions moving forward. So that includes communication plans, making sure we have the right staff attending meetings and playing their role as we manage this incident or this emergency. So those plans will help guide us. Certainly we could circulate them back to council if you wish, so you're aware of what we're guiding our decisions on operationally. Thanks.
Anything else, Councillor Moore?
Yeah, just are we getting into the heavy-duty sandbagging at the Westmeath Garage? That's the only place?
At this point in time, yes.
The other small substations are still going to stay?
Right. There are sand dumps that have been located out at a number of key areas, and that's for smaller groups to access more
Okay,
central.
so it helps them with people that are listening now, and for us, ourselves, we know where to go if we're going to help.
Yes.
So, okay, thanks.
Good. Any other questions? Comments? Excellent. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Public comments. So I'll just get the deputy clerk to confirm if we have received any public comments.
The answer to that is no. We have not received any requests for public comments on any of the agenda items. Thanks.
Good. Excellent. We'll jump into the reports. 9.1. This is Whitewater Sno-goers Memorandum of Understanding. So the recommendation is that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve entering into a Memorandum of Understanding with the Whitewater Sno-goers to create a new snowmobile club trail on the untraveled road allowance portion of Gypsy Lane. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Trim, seconded by Councillor Moore. And staff that's going to speak to this is Public Works Manager.
Yeah, thank you. This report has came since two delegation that council received back in January and early February. Staff met with the Sno-goers and residents on Gypsy Lane to determine a proactive approach and solve some matters on Gypsy Lane. What the local snowmobile club has proposed is provide a local snowmobile trail from their trail that crosses the road allowance on Gypsy Lane. I think it's their trail 114, and they will continue to the traveled portion of Gypsy Lane. And speaking with residents, that this should be it's endorsed by the residents to have access from the residents around Gypsy Lane to the snowmobile trail, and staff are in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions, comments from members of council? Councillor Moore.
Just one. I'm looking at the map. Should all of Gypsy Lane not been in purple? Or just it's going to end at the dead end?
It will end at the dead end.
So that will be the end of the trail?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize. I should have went to the mover first. Councillor Trim, did you have any questions?
I think I know the answer. The trail leaves the unopened road allowance because there's some sort of an obstacle there? It leaves briefly?
That is correct. So the actual, on the road allowance, there's a obstruction, and there's a trail that veers off the on-road allowance on private property. And the Sno-goers Club will have the same agreement with us as the private property owner.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Trim. Councillor Tapper? That was my question. Two birds, one stone. Any other comments or questions? Excellent. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Excellent. I just need you to move the agenda to... Excellent. 9.2, cash handling policy. The recommendation before us is the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve a bylaw to adopt a cash handling policy. A mover and a seconder. Councillor Olmsted, our money guy. Seconded by Councillor Tabbert. Excellent. I'm assuming the treasurer is going to take this on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a cash handling policy is a set of rules on how to handle cash and cash equivalents, whether within or outside the premises. The policy focuses on safety to reduce cash loss, helps increase efficiencies, and reduce human error. It's designed to avoid mishandling or fraudulent activity in the handling of cash and to prevent and minimize the risk to employees when handling it. Currently, the township does not have a policy in place, so with the adoption of this policy, it allows us to create a set of procedures that regulates everything, so everything is handled the exact same way throughout the entire municipality. That's the main purpose of this policy, is just to get consistency throughout.
Thank you. Councillor Olmsted, any comments or questions as the mover?
No, I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Good. Councillor Tabbert?
I don't know if this is the place to say it, but I think this is ridiculous. Why do we have to do this? I don't understand. Like, we've been handling cash for how many years? I don't know, it just seems a little redundant that we're doing it now when this municipality has been here since 2002, and now we're just bringing a cash handling policy in. I just don't understand.
So I'll provide some context and I'll throw it back to the treasurer, the CAO. But I know that from a senior's perspective, some of the events where we started to handle cash, a lot of questions came into be. So what we might have assumed was a well-known practice that was handled, you know, maybe very well when it was just at the front desk in here. When we started to disperse and do some cash handling off-site, there were some questions. So I think this policy will serve to make that very clear for anyone handling cash that we do it in a certain way. Treasurer?
Thank you.
I'll let the treasurer, if he wants to add anything.
No, I'm going to echo those comments. The main purpose of this is just to provide a base so that then the procedures for each department, how each department handles cash, can be created. And it's then with the direction of council that the policy exists, and that's what new staff follows. It's a guideline so that staff, all levels of staff, with the amount of turnover we have, everybody has the exact same, they know how things are handled the exact same way every time, and you don't get differences between.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Olmsted.
And just to provide more context to that, so you take something like the street dance that we had, where we were handling $20,000, $30,000 of cash a night, and a bunch of volunteers and some staff, and you had I think everybody has their own ideas in their head of how rules should be followed. So I think this is, I wish it would have came 10 years ago. Great. Thank you.
Councillor Trim.
Yes, and it is stated in the policy that this is one way to protect staff, give them some comfort so that, you know, it protects them from accusations and that sort of thing. So I'm really happy to see it, and good job.
Excellent. Any other comments or questions? None? And we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Next item is our pound facility agreement. The recommendation is that the Council of Township of Whitewater Region enact an agreement with the town of Renfrew to provide pound facility services for a 4-year term. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Tabbert and Councillor Moore. And the Deputy Clerk. Over to you.
So thanks so much. I did not draft this report, nor did I review it before the meeting of council, but I'll give you a quick summary of it. It was prepared by our clerk, Carmen Miller. Essentially what's happened is the township used to use the animal pound facility shared with, or not shared with, but through a contract with Bonashire Valley. Bonashire Valley has since determined that effective April 30th, which is about 4 days ago, their pound would close their doors. And that's as a result of the feasibility of their facility. It was determined that it was no longer feasible. So the township inquired with the Ontario SPCA, Renfrew County, and the town of Renfrew, two areas that also provide this type of service. And essentially, it was determined that the most feasible option for the township would be through the town of Renfrew. So we do currently use the contracted services of MLES, Municipal Law Enforcement Services. They are located in the town of Renfrew, their home base, if you will, or their office. So it is suitable that if a dog call or a call is made to pick up a dog that's abandoned or that's running openly in the streets, that they would take that dog back to the town of Renfrew to be held in the dog pound with the town of Renfrew. So essentially, the costs associated with this is that we'd see an annual fee that will increase annually over the next 4 years, ranging from $1,000 in this year, which is sort of a three-quarter year or half year, to $1,817. So that's the annual fee. We'd have a daily usage fee of $10 per day if there's a dog held there, and it'd be a 4-year agreement. So staff here indicate that the operating budget included $4,800 for the pound facility, of which $1,500 would be for the pound. So for this year, we'd likely fall within the operating budget, but next year we'll have to increase that slightly to accommodate the increased costs. So staff are supportive of this approach and gladly answer any questions that there may be. Thanks.
Thank you, CAO. Councillor Tabbert, you were the mover. Any comments or questions?
When I was reading the document, it said that the township's animal control officer. So who's our animal control officer?
I would say that is that would be defined in our animal control bylaw as likely a staff person or their delegate, which would be MLES in the end, Municipal Law Enforcement Services.
Okay, because I mean, they're the ones who have to go and take care of our animals there.
That's correct. So any bylaw infraction that a resident witnesses, they're encouraged to call MLES directly. There are numbers on our website.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Moore, you were the seconder. Any comments from you?
Actually, just one. When they take in an animal now, should it not have a tag, we don't know whose it is, what are our responsibilities at that point?
Well, that I'm not entirely sure. I would encourage all residents who have dogs to get a dog tag annually before March 31st, as it's a reduced cost. But certainly, I'm not extremely familiar with what occurs if a dog is found untagged, how many days it's held. I would think that we would likely post it on our Facebook page to try to recover the owner of the animal. But I can't speak to what occurs after a number of days or period of time, unfortunately.
Okay, just wondering if that should be part of it. And I had a part two, but that wasn't that. Where do we stand there at Bone Shore Valley? Is our contract up and coming to be terminated, or do we know that yet?
The contract is currently null and void. It doesn't exist anymore, so we are without a facility at this time. As I understand it, I mean, certainly we would find alternative measures if we needed to before this bylaw would be passed. But the town of Renfrew still has to go to committee and council. So we're just passing this in the first place. Once if council decides to approve this, then it would be brought to the town of Renfrew committee, then their council for final approval. So there is a bit of a gap here of about a month, but we need not worry about that. We're certainly covered through the SPCA or this pound. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Trim.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you to CAO. Are any of these fees recoverable if the animal is claimed by the owner?
As I understand, I would think that yes, there might be a charge to get your animal back, in this case the dog. I would have to verify the animal control bylaw as it pertains to set fines, whether or not that set fine would help assist in cost recovery. So if we find a dog that's running wild, there was a set fine for that. So if the owner comes forth and says, hey, that's my dog at your facility, then we may potentially issue them a fine for having their dog run wild, in addition to maybe some of the pound fees. I'm not entirely certain of that, Councillor Trim.
A follow-up, Mr. Mayor. That would be if there isn't some something in the bylaw about recovering costs, it might be something to be considered in addition to the fine or instead of the fine, or however that may be. It may be that for some reason a fine isn't imposed. Perhaps the owner of the dog did everything reasonable to contain the dog, but something happened, sort of out of their control. But we have a cost at the pound, and so maybe some language could be inserted so that at least we would recover our own costs. It's a suggestion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Trim. Noted by staff, and if there is an opportunity for us to insert that, I believe that they will look at it. Public Works Manager?
Sorry, I just wanted to note that the bylaw to regulate keeping control of animals does include set fines for various items, such as keeping dogs and that. It does.
You want to jump in? No, it's good. Any other comments or questions on this? No? Excellent. Call for a vote. All those in favor? And the motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is notices of motion, and I'll just go around the room and look for visible queue. Councillor Trim? Notice of motion? No? Councillor Olmsted? So no notices of motions noted today. Next item is correspondence. There are no items that require direction as of today. We have, I believe, 2 informational items. I'll just ask the CAO if he can slide that up. CCBF attachment, and was the treasurer going to provide a comment on that?
I could.
Okay, CAO will provide. Thank you. Good. What at this point in time we won't get staff to comment on it. Is there? What was the second item that was? Okay, just hold for a second. We'll just see what the second one is. Right, and they're in for county games. So there's 2 items for your information, Council. I just wanted to see if the staff had anything to comment on the first item. Go ahead there, Treasurer.
Thank you. So for that funding, last year, 2022, that funding was used to redo Papin Road. So it was a double surface treatment of 2.5 kilometers. So it was to take it from the double surface treatment and redo it as a double surface treatment. And then for this year, the budget for the fire funds to be received from that funding is for the arena dehumidifier in Cobden under the recreation component of the funding. Under the local roads, Lookout Road from Powers to La Paz, it's a 3.1 kilometer chunk of road. It's going to go from double surface treatment to gravel as the first stage. So a chunk of funding is going to be used for that. Which is kind of ironic, is flood hazard and identification program. It was going to be done, and that's going to be on for the disaster mitigation portion of the funding. And then the last project for this year is the master transportation plan, which is part of community building.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Treasurer. And just to note that CCBF used to be gas tax, managed by AMO. The information package that was provided to Council shows all the different ways other municipalities in Ontario have been investing that CCBF money. As you can see by what the Treasurer provided context, we are doing the same and making sure that it fits and it is used in every way possible to support the community. And we just have to continue to advocate that that gas tax is made available to municipalities such as ours, where it's one of our vital sources of revenue. Excellent. Good. No, Councillor Trim spoke to that at the last council meeting. Okay, next item on the agenda is announcements. And I'm going to do this again. Councillor Olmsted is here. Councillor Olmsted gets to go first.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor. My pleasure. Now, I was going to announce the tour to Whitewater, as I did actually see a check on my desk, and we are a proud gold sponsor, personally. So I was going to use that as my platform today, but all my thunder was stolen earlier in the meeting. But I'd be happy to challenge any other member of council to participate in any of the events that day. Thank you. Of July 15th, that is.
Thank you, Councillor Olmsted. You're going to be participating? Just, okay, excellent. We'll see you out on a bike. Councillor Trim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. I was one of the representatives from Whitewater Region this morning to attend the community development, economic development presentation by OMAFRA across the street. I just wanted to say it was excellent. They did an excellent job. It's an awful lot of information to digest, but it was a start for me, and really appreciate it. Second thing is that Colin and I are going on a planned vacation next week out of country. It's an awkward time, flood-wise, but just to let staff know and councillors know that I won't be available from the Monday the 8th till the 15th. Thank you.
I'm going to reverse order on this side. Deputy Mayor, you get to go first.
I don't think I have anything at this time.
Good. Councillor Tabbert?
I attended the OSM conference, the Ontario Small Municipal, and it's my first and last time. I was thinking we might be small urban, but we're actually like really rural compared to what they were discussing there. The one thing that I did attend a few of the workshops. One of them was the short-term rentals, and I know that we had a draft bylaw, I think, on our desks the week I was away, and while I was in favor of it before, I'm a little nervous now because there's one township, tiny township, they've got lawsuits up their kazoo right now because of this. So I think we should all pay attention to the short-term rentals that we are going to be looking at.
Thank you, Councillor Tabbert. And it's perfect because that context helps us ensure that we shape the right thing for our community. So excellent, thank you. And Councillor Moore.
Yes. This weekend, this Saturday night, some of the council members are attending the Lions Club 70th anniversary, and that's at the Westmeath Arena upstairs, as far as I know. And also next weekend, Friday and Saturday, from 10 until 3, is the Pembroke Expo, and it's at the arena downtown, PMC, sorry. And that is I've never been. It was every time they have it, it just seems I'm busy, but I want to try and attend this Friday at least. And one other thing is tonight I will be attending the school meeting for the 100th anniversary. So anybody listening out there, if you'd like to attend, please attend Beachburg Public School and help on the committee to get things rolling. And other than that, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Moore. Next item on the agenda is 13 bylaws. We have a number listed on the agenda today, and the recommendation is, be it resolved that the bylaws listed on the May 3rd, 2023 agenda be taken as read and passed. I'll look for a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Moore. Is there any questions, comments about that? Any of those items on that list? None seen. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And the motion is carried. CAO, any requirement for a closed session today? No requirement for closed session, and therefore I will call for the adjournment at 3:13 p.m. Thank you.